Well, we are entering the Torah. The Old Testament, of course, is unfortunately very foreign territory to many Christians. We focus on the New Testament. Many Christians are mistaught the idea that the New Testament obsoletes the Old. Not at all. It fulfills it, of course. But much of what's going on in the New Testament will not be intelligible to you unless you really know your Old Testament. And in the Old Testament, the most venerated portion of that are the first 5 books. First 5 books of Moses. And we're not going to waste any of our time on the so-called documentary hypothesis. So you go to college or seminaries, you encounter the Graf-Wellhausen hypothesis that it really wasn't Moses, it was these different authors, and they give them labels. You can shred that argument from the text itself, but you don't need to bother, and you don't have to waste hours of boring library research, because Jesus Christ authenticated the 5 books of Moses, quoted from them frequently. And you can, if you believe in Jesus Christ, you have no patience with the so-called documentary hypothesis. If you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you have much bigger problems in the authorship of the book of Moses. So, book of Genesis, of course, is the creation. That's great stuff. And the founding of the patriarchs, the founding of a nation. The nation actually gets born in Exodus. They go down as a family, come out as a nation. The book of Leviticus is the book on holiness and codifies God's expectations as how he expects to be worshipped. Very important book for Christians. The only book in the Bible on holiness. It's very important. But then we get to the book of Numbers. The book of Deuteronomy, the last book, are three summary sermons by Moses before his life ends. But the book of Numbers is a strange name for this book. It comes from let's just jump in here. It comes from the Greek arithmoi, which means numbers. And because there happens to be a couple of censuses taken of the nation. It opens with a census and there's one later. And because of that, it picked up this Gentile label. But the Hebrew title for the book is Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. And the book of Numbers is going to deal with, they've obviously come out of, by the time you get to Numbers, they've come out of Exodus, and they're heading for Kadesh Barnea, but they blow it there by not entering in the land when God had them set to do that. And because of their lack of faith, God condemns all but 2 of them to wander for virtually 40 years in the wilderness. And during those wilderness wanderings, there are many experiences that are quite colorful, but that also have relevance for you and me. And that's often overlooked by many people. So the book of Numbers is going to be full of surprises. It only took 40 hours to get Israel out of Egypt, but it took 40 years to get Egypt out of Israel. And that's exactly where most of us are, wandering in the wilderness, failing to enter in to God's rest. And that will have more meaning to us as we get into the book. But it covers 38 years. We say 40 years, but technically it's actually 38 years. And that will turn out to be prophetically profound as we study the Scripture. It covers from the 38 years from the giving of the law at Mount Sinai up to the eve of the conquest under Joshua. At the end, Moses passes the baton, so to speak, to Joshua, and that, of course, leads to the book of Joshua. So that's these 38 years. In these 38 years, we're going to see successes and failures. And each one of those are relevant to you and me. So don't let the quaintness of the text or the fact that we're dealing with a bygone era delude us. There's things to be learned here. And that's exactly what Paul tells us in his first letter to the Corinthians. He says, now all these things happened unto them for examples, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. So I think many of you are here probably just to learn more about your Bible and to fill in some background that you feel you need, and that's wonderful. I applaud that. But I think many of you also will be surprised to discover the things that are tucked away in this book, and also the relevance to our lives, yours and mine. The examples there, by the way, is tupos, which is from which we get the term type. Things are a type or a foreshadowing of something in the future. A tupos is a figure, an image, a pattern, a prefiguring, if you will. We use the term in modern engineering, a prototype is an example, but it comes from that same root idea. For you and I as Westerners, prophecy tends to be prediction and fulfillment. Prediction and fulfillment. That's our mentality towards it. That's a Greek model. The Hebrew model is prophecy is pattern. And as you get sensitized to God's way of doing things, you'll begin to see that he has a style of doing things that is instructive. And we'll be trying to alert ourselves to that as we go. Well, let's just jump right on in, because we've got a lot of ground to cover tonight. Numbers chapter 1, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation, on the first day of the second month, in the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, and he goes on. He apparently actually spoke to Moses audibly from the tabernacle, as if he was perched over this the mercy seat. And he actually spoke to Moses. And so obviously this is now the second year after they've come out of the land of Egypt. And he says, take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls. In other words, God instructs Moses to have what we would call a census. Part of this is to be instructive for military purposes. And the census we're going to behold is one that is constrained to those that are able to go to war. And so you get a military connotation here. We're going to learn a lot about the camp of Israel as we go through. But that's the instruction. And he takes them from 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel. And that's the focus of this numbering. It's a military preparation. Thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. And with you there shall be a man of every tribe, every one head of the house of his fathers. So the head of each household is to assist in this situation. Okay, so now let's back up before we jump into all of this and refresh our memory on what we call the 12 tribes. Obviously, the game starts in Genesis 12 with Abraham. And he marries Sarah. He has a child through Hagar, her handmaid, Ishmael. You all know the story. Finally, though, as per the prediction given by God to Abraham, Sarah herself bears Isaac. He marries Rebekah. And he also has he has Esau and Jacob. It's interesting how in both cases here, the firstborn's rights are sidestepped. And we go through Jacob, of course, who then has two wives, Leah and Rachel. Leah is fruitful, has Reuben the firstborn, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. And Rachel, you can imagine how frustrated she is at this point. So she indulges in a procedure that was common in those days. And that is to have her handmaid be a surrogate wife, in effect. And so Bilhah, her handmaid, is offered to Abraham, and through whom she bears Dan and Naphtali. Leah figures if she can get away with it, so can I. So she has her handmaid, Zilpah, perform and gives birth to Gad and Asher. By this time, Rachel finally has her firstborn, Joseph. Joseph is obviously very favored. Jacob loved Rachel more than life itself. And so Joseph, her firstborn, is in a very favored position. Meanwhile, Leah has two more, Issachar and Zebulun. So you have 6 of the 12 tribes are from Leah. And finally, Rachel has her last child. In fact, she dies in childbirth with Benjamin, being the youngest. At first, of course, Jacob is bitter because he lost her through her, but he becomes also the dearest in many respects to Jacob. And now Joseph, as you all know, gets down to Egypt, gets married down there, has 2 children, Manasseh and Ephraim. Manasseh is the firstborn, Ephraim the second. But Jacob adopts those 2 grandchildren, as we would call them, and he adopts Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. That's a prophecy. And Ephraim becomes almost synonymous with the northern part of Israel after the Civil War and so forth. But anyway, these are the 12 tribes. We're going to encounter these names. I thought it would be worthwhile refreshing our perspective as to who their mothers were. Because obviously they're all brothers, but some of them would regard each other as half-brothers in a sense. Okay, And you can go through their names as to what they mean. Your Bible, your study Bible, will have annotations. Each time one of these is born, their name is suggestive of the circumstances, so they have a meaning. The best known one is Judah, which means praise, and so forth. And it's interesting how you look through these things, how they also profile the history of Israel. In Egypt first, in the wilderness, then in the land, and finally in the kingdom. That's a study in its own right. I toss it out just for you to chase down on your own. The 12 tribes, as I say, each one has a name. And they are listed 20 times, more than 20 times actually, in the Scripture. Each time in a different order, and each time with different ones omitted, which is a study in its own right. And you can go through these names, and each time they're listed, it suggests possibly a sentence, and you can play around with that on your own. They're listed, as I say, many times, 3 times in Genesis, obviously entering Egypt in Exodus, a number of times in Numbers, not just the census, but there's other times that they're listed, and we'll explore a few of those. And in Deuteronomy, of course, and in Joshua, Judges, Chronicles, Ezekiel, and of course Revelation, where we see in chapter 7 that these 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes reemerges, which is another indication that chapter 7 is post-church in the book of Revelation. If you take Revelation 7 as an example and take the list there, you can say, praise the Lord, he has looked upon my affliction and granted good fortune. Happy am I. My wrestling has made me forget my sorrow. God hears me, has joined me, he's purchased me, he exalted me, and by adding me to the son of his right hand. So that can be contrived. Some people would argue. I think it's interesting. You could play around with those on your own, come to your own conclusions. Let's keep moving. We've snuck up to verse 5 of Numbers 1. And these are the names of the men that shall stand by you. See, in other words, there's going to be 12 guys, one ahead of each tribe, that's going to join Moses in the executing the census. Of the tribe of Reuben, Elizur, the son of Shedeur; of Simeon, Shelumiel, son of Zurishadai. And don't laugh at me, you try pronouncing some of these sometime. Of Judah, Nashon, the son of Aminadab. Now, this is an interesting guy. He appears in later genealogies. You'll find him in the book of Ruth in chapter 4, verse 20, and you'll also find him in Matthew 1 and so on. And so this group, by the way, represents the 4th, 5th, and 6th sons of Leah. So they're an inside group in many respects. Issachar, Nathaniel, the son of Zuar. Of Zebulun, Eliab, the son of Helon. Of the children of Joseph. Of Ephraim. Notice Ephraim's ahead of Manasseh here, naturally. Elishama, the son of Amminahud, and Manasseh, Gamaliel, the son of Bedazur. And so of Benjamin, Abidan, the son of Gideoni. Of Dan, Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai. Ahiezer's an interesting guy because he's not happy with the idea that Dan ends up getting a serpent as a symbol. So he puts the serpent in an eagle's mouth, and over the years the eagle becomes the symbol of the tribe of Dan. I've always wondered how that all happened. That was... there's a whole derivative study from that sometime if you're interested. Of Asher, Pagiel, the son of Okran. Of Gad, Eliasaph, the son of Deuel. And Naphtali, Ahira, the son of Anan. These were the renowned of the congregation, princes of the tribes of their fathers, heads of thousands in Israel. Moses and Aaron took these men, which are expressed by their names. There's a challenge to you to study, get into the Hebrew roots and understand what their names mean. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the 2nd month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls. Why 20 years old and upwards? They were the ones that were deemed as war-worthy. They were the warriors. And as the Lord commanded Moses, so he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai. And the children of Reuben, we're going to go through the 12 tribes quickly here. The children of Reuben, Israel's eldest son, by the generations after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names, by their polls, every male from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even the tribe of Reuben, were 46,500. Well, that's exciting. And I say, what am I supposed to do with that number? Well, I don't know. First of all, that's not the population of Reuben. That's the population of those that were 20, the males that were 20 years old and above that. So for each of these numbers, you can make an educated guess as to what to multiply it by. 2.5 might be a reasonable guess. In other words, a wife and children or elder, there's going to be some younger, so there's a multiplier. So the number we end up with will be 600,000, but that's just the men able to go to war. That's quite a bunch, by the way, even by today's standards. And if you multiply that by, say, 2 or 3 times, you're talking about several million people that are involved here. Of the children of Simeon, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, those that were numbered of them, according to the number of the names, by their polls, every male from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even the tribe of Simeon, 59,300. Of the children of Gad, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go to war, those that were numbered of them, even the tribe of Gad, were 45,650. Of the children of Judah, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Judah, were 14,600. Don't bother jotting these down. I'll summarize for these when we get through the 12, okay? Because there are some insights here. Of the children of Issachar, by their generations, of their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Issachar, were 54,400. Of the children of Zebulun, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even the tribe of Zebulun, were 57,400. Of the tribe of Joseph, namely of the children of Ephraim, by their generations, after their families, even by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from the 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Ephraim, were 40,500. And of the children of Manasseh, that's the other half of Joseph, in other words, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Manasseh, were 32,200. I'll use this point to remind you that they're not 12 tribes, they're 13. There are classic 12 tribes, but Joseph is awarded a double portion for some other reasons, and Jacob, his father, adopts his 2 sons as his own. So you really have a list of 13 tribal names. That's why in these various lists you can leave one out and still have 12. The Levites do not go to war, so they don't go to war, but there's still 12 tribes that go to war. You follow me? So if you're trying to include them all, you can take the tribe of Joseph, take even Manasseh, and call it 1 if you want. If you're trying to leave one of the others out, you split Joseph into the 2, and you still end up with 12. You take one out and still have 12. It's called a baker's dozen, I think, right? Okay. Of the children of Benjamin, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war, those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Benjamin, were 35,400. And of the children of Dan, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even the tribe of Dan, were 62,700. Of the children of Asher, by their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Asher, were 41,500. Of the children of Naphtali, throughout their generations, after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Those that were numbered of them, even of the tribe of Naphtali, were 53,400. You're probably wondering why I'm going verse by verse, why I don't just summarize it. That's a dangerous thing to do if you're serious about the Bible, because too often you will miss an insight. And so rather than err that way, we'll go through verse by verse and then give us appropriate summaries. We're down to verse 44. These are those that were numbered, which Moses and Aaron numbered, and the prince of Israel being 12 men. Each one was for the house of his fathers. So were all those that were numbered of the children of Israel by the house of their fathers from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war in Israel, even all that were numbered were 600,000, 3,500. By the Levites, after the tribe of their fathers, were not numbered among them. The Levites were not numbered because they don't go to war. They're exempt from war. They have a whole different mandate. For the Lord hath spoken unto Moses, saying, Only thou shalt not number the tribe of Levi, neither take the sum of them among the children of Israel. But thou shalt appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of testimony, and over all the vessels thereof, and over all the things that belong to it. They shall bear the tabernacle and all the vessels thereof, and they shall minister unto it, and shall encamp round about the tabernacle. And we'll look at that shortly. And when the tabernacle setteth forward, in other words, when it's on the move, the Levites shall take it down. And when the tabernacle is to be pitched, the Levites shall set it up. And the stranger, now this is, among them they had some non-Jews living with them. The stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. In fact, that would probably be the folly of any non-Levite that approaches any of these details. And the children of Israel shall pitch their tents, every man by his own camp, and every man by his own standard throughout their hosts. But the Levites shall pitch round about the tabernacle of testimony, that there be no wrath upon the congregation of the children of Israel. And the Levites shall keep the charge of the tabernacle of testimony. And the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses, so did they. So that's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is going to take that information and render it into an order of march for war, and also lay out the camp. The Lord spake unto Moses, unto Aaron, saying, Every man of the children of Israel shall pitch by his own standard, with the ensign of their father's house, far off about the tabernacle of the congregation shall they pitch. What is not widely known is that every one of the 12 tribes had an ensign, a banner, a symbol, and that symbol was suggestive of one of the signs of what the Hebrews call the Mazzaroth. The Gentile label for the Mazzaroth is the zodiac. And don't confuse the fact that that is used by astrology. It also is used by astronomers as a convenient method of laying out what you might call the geography of the heavens. So when you speak of these constellations, obviously, because we're in a pagan world, we tend to use the labels from the Temple of Dendra, which is an ancient Egyptian place where these things are recorded, what we call the signs of the zodiac. They're not 12, there's actually 48, for each one has 3 deacons and so on. But the point is, those arrangements of stars are universal in all cultures. They have different legends and labels for them. The Hebrews, however, and we believe this was the original labels of them, account God's plan of redemption, from the virgin birth that we call Virgo, all the way to Leo the Lion. And it's astonishing to get into this. I'm not going to take the time here to get into this, but it's an interesting study, and we have briefings on it if you like. But the point is, each of the 12 tribes has a celestial ensign, and 4 of those are going to be very prominent for us here shortly. Lord speaking to Moses said unto him, Every man of the children of Israel shall pitch by his own standard. In other words, every house, Judah, Levi, whatever, had a standard, with the ensign of their father's house. Far off about the tabernacle of the congregation shall they pitch. On the east side, toward the rising of the sun, shall the standard of the camp of Judah pitch. Don't confuse that with the tribe of Judah. The camp of Judah is a grouping of 3 tribes, as you'll see in a minute. They have the standard of the camp of Judah pitched throughout their armies. And Nashon, the son of Amminadab, shall be the captain of the children of Judah. And his host, and those that were numbered of them, were 14,600. Those that do pitch next to him shall be the tribe of Issachar. And Nathaniel, the son of Zuar, shall be the captain of the children of Issachar, and his host and those that were numbered thereof were 54,400. And then the tribe of Zebulun, and Eliab, the son of Helon, shall be the captain of the children of Zebulun. And his host, those that were numbered thereof, were 57,400. So all that were numbered in the camp of Judah, that's those 3 tribes we just mentioned, were 100,000, 4,000, 6,400 throughout their armies. These shall first set forth. So this group, which is the largest of the bunch, by the way, is the first one in the order of march. If they're marching, these are the ones that go first. And these are the three. Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun together make up the camp of Judah. Many people miss this as if you come to the temptation, just skim through these chapters and Numbers. It's tempting just to zip through it and go on. You'll miss some things that I'm going to try to highlight as we go here. On the south side now. We've gone on the east side. We're moving out of the south side. On the south side shall be the standard of the camp of Reuben, according to their armies. And the captain of the children of Reuben shall be Elizur, the son of Shedeur, and his host, and those that were numbered thereof were 46,500. And those which pitched by him shall be the tribe of Simeon. The captain of the children of Simeon shall be Shalumiel, the son of Zurishaddai. And his host, and those that were numbered of them were 50 and 9,300. Then the tribe of Gad. The captain of the sons of Gad shall be Eliasaph, the son of Ruel, and his host, and those that were numbered of them, 40 and 5,650. All that were numbered in the camp of Reuben were 100,050, 1,450 throughout their armies, and they shall set forth in the second rank. So this is the second camp, the camp of Reuben. They're on the south side. When they camp, they're on the south side of the tabernacle. They are second in the line of march, Reuben, Simeon, and Gad. Then the tabernacle of the congregation shall set forward. Now this is not at war, this is just on the march. Obviously the tabernacle is going to be somewhere. The Levites wouldn't be going to war, but if they're on the march, going from A to B, obviously the tabernacle is moving with them. This is where they would sit. And then the tabernacle of the congregation shall set forward with the camp of the Levites in the midst of the camp. And as they encamp, so shall they set forward, every man in his place by their standards. Now we have the tabernacle in the center. We have around the tabernacle the Levites in three families, the Gershonites, Kohathites, and Merarites. Moses and the priests are in the south. Now obviously, to be a priest, you had to be a descendant of Aaron, Moses' older brother. So if you are a priest, you're certainly a Levite, but just because you're a Levite, you're not a priest, because you could be a Levite that's not a descendant of Aaron directly, and that would put you in one of the three families, Kohathites, Gershonites, or Merarites. You with us? And anyway, that's always at the center of the camp of Israel. Now we move on the west side. Shall be the standard of the camp of Ephraim, according to their armies. And the captain of the sons of Ephraim shall be Elishama, the son of Ammihud, and his host, and those that were numbered of them, 40,500. And by him shall be the tribe of Manasseh. The captain of the children of Manasseh shall be Gamaliel, the son of Pedazur, and his host, and those that were numbered of them, 30 and 2,200. And then the tribe of Benjamin. And the captain of the sons of Benjamin shall be Abidan, the son of Gideoni, and his hosts, and those that were numbered of them, 30 and 5,400. And all that were numbered of the camp of Ephraim were 100,000 and 8,100 throughout their armies, and they shall go forward to the third rank. So that's the camp of Ephraim. We only have one more. Hang in there. The standard of the camp of Dan, not the tribe, the camp of Dan, shall be on the north side by their armies. And the captain of the children of Dan shall be Ahiezer, the son of Ammishaddai, and his host, and those that were numbered of them, 80 and 2,700. And those that encamp by him shall be the tribe of Asher. The captain of the children of Asher shall be Pagiel, the son of Ochran, and his host, and those that were numbered of them were 40 and 1,500. And the tribe of Naphtali, and the captain of the children of Naphtali shall be Ahira, the son of Anan, and his host, and those that were numbered of them, 50 and 3,400. And all that were numbered in the camp of Dan were 100,000, 50, 7,600, and they shall go hindmost in their standards. So they're the last. So you got four camps, three tribes each, and the Levites, the tabernacle right in the middle. And there are the numbers. Now, you're probably wondering, gee, Chuck, that was tedious. I'm going to show you something that, well, it'll be right. Well, I'll mention right now. I have a theory that nothing in the Scripture is there by accident. Everything in the Scripture is there by deliberate design, part one. Part two, that design always points to Jesus Christ. And one of the fun games you can play when you're in a small group of people that are serious about their Bible is try to find something that violates that presumption. And you say, Chuck, here's a great one. I got all these numbers. What's that got to do with anything? I mean, by now you're drowning in numbers. What do I do with those? I'll point out to you that God always rewards the diligent. So we'll look at something here shortly. These are those which are numbered of the children of Israel by the house of their fathers. All those that were numbered of the camps throughout their hosts were 600,000 and 3,550. But the Levites were not numbered among the children of Israel as the Lord commanded Moses. And the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So they pitched by their standards, so that they set forward every one after their families according to the house of their fathers. I might mention something else, by the way. You'll notice it said that Levites are not numbered. They're going to be numbered in the next chapter. Well, I thought God said not to do that. The context here is war. They're not numbered because they don't go to war. We are going to number them two different ways. Those that are 1 month and older and those that are between 30 and 50. And we'll see that in the next chapter. So often there is a generality in the scripture, and then it's followed by an exception. So don't let that throw you. But, okay. So the order of march is pretty straightforward. We have the camp of Judah, which is Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Then the camp of Reuben, which is Reuben, Simeon, and Gad. Levites right in the middle with the tabernacle. And their numbers you don't know yet. That's coming in the next chapter. Then Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin is the camp of Ephraim. So you got battalions and companies, sort of, if you want to look at it regimentally. But you also have these numbers. Are those numbers meaningful? I think they are if you put them in the right groupings. You know, we have, all through the book of Numbers, we have types. I warned you about that. This is one that's coming here. You're going to have manna before it's all over. You've got the brazen serpent. That's one of the strangest ones in the Bible. You have waters from the rock, and so forth. There's others. Let's take this one, the camp of Israel. I suggest that every detail in the scripture is there by design, and the question we're going to address is what could be hidden behind these numerical details of the camp of Israel. Jesus himself said, the volume of the book is written of me. And he said that in Psalm 40, verse 7. It's quoted in Hebrews 10:7. So here are these four camps. Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Reuben, Simeon, and Gad, Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin, Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. And we have their numbers. If you add those numbers, you will get the population of each of the four camps. And we're not through yet. What do you say, gee, Chuck, what do I do with that? Well, let's back up here. The tabernacle is in the middle of the camp. Around the tabernacle, you have the Levites. The Kohathites, Gershonites, Merarites as the three families, but Moses and the priests, which are the core group, on the east side. The east side is, of course, the key side. Now, I have no idea how much space they took to camp. We'll learn later that there's about 22,000 of them that are more than a month old. So, now, if you take that number plus their wives and families and whatever, that you have 2 or 3 times that, whatever, that number of people is not a small place, right? But that is the camp of the Levites. And they're the reference point for the rest of the camp. Now, you're going to need to follow me here. You've got to pretend you're Jewish. You do understand how hard the rabbis try to keep what they believe the law is saying. We often accuse them of splitting hairs. But they try very hard to do what it literally says. We could learn some lessons from them, perhaps. The camp of Judah was instructed to camp east of the Levites. That sounds simple, but it's not. The camp of Reuben was instructed to camp south of the Levites. Well, no problem. If you're going to be strictly obedient to the instructions of the Torah, that denies you the opportunity to camp southeast of the tabernacle, of the Levites. Because if you're southeast, you're not east or south. You're in between. And only the cardinal directions are ordained for the camping. So you have to figure out how wide the Levites are camping and stay within that range if you're going to stay east of the Levites. Do you follow me? Now, and your length then you take proportional to whatever you need for population. So here are the Levites. The camp of Judah is on the east side. Their symbol is the lion, incidentally, the lion of the tribe of Judah. And so they can camp as wide as the Levites have staked out for themselves. Whatever that is, they can, as long as they're east of that, they're obedient. The same thing, likewise, Reuben. His symbol was the man, incidentally. So there again, they can camp as wide as the Levites have staked out, no wider, and they take whatever depth they need for their people. If somebody tries to camp between these two, he's neither east nor south. That's verboten. So likewise, okay, we have these 4 zones southeast, southwest, northwest, northeast, that would be in effect prohibited. Ephraim is on the west side. His symbol was the ox, the symbol of service. And then we have on the north side the tribe of Dan, which ultimately became the eagle, was the symbol of the tribe of Dan. And we have the 4 camps of Israel. Now we add to this the fact that we know what the populations are. We don't know their absolute populations, but we have relative figures. In other words, whatever the number going to war, I think would be reasonably statistically indicative of what the total population is. We have about 186,000 in Judah, 151,000 in Reuben, the camp of Reuben, and we have about 108,000 in the camp of Ephraim, and about 157 in the camp of Dan. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to embark on a magical helicopter. Outside, I've got parked a special Jet Ranger, and this one's a very unusual one because it's also a time machine. So we're all going to, in our mind's eye, get in this helicopter, and as we fly over to Israel, we're going to crank it back about, 4,000 years? And 3,000 some. And we're going to approach the camp of Israel from the east side. And as we approach the camp of Israel, we'll see, of course, right in the center of it, the tabernacle and the Levites. But as we begin to appreciate, this is basically a sketch of the camp of Israel made to scale. I'm using the tribe of the area of the Levites as my unit. And whatever that is, the length, the proportions of the arms will be proportional to the populations. The largest one is to the east, 186,000 units, say. The shortest one to the west. And the other two nominally about the same. And what do you see there? You can't escape it, can you? This is probably what Balaam saw from the mountains of Moab when he was going to curse Israel. We'll get to that in Numbers 20 and following. But I think this is kind of interesting. You see, if you pay attention to the text, I don't think there's probably one Christian in 100 that realizes that there is a sketch of an aerial view of the camp of Israel tucked away in the 2nd chapter of the book of Numbers. And that may mean a lot to you, it may mean nothing, but I think it's... Now something else, by the way, I haven't highlighted here. The 4 labels on those 4 camps are the ox, the man, the eagle, and the lion, which are the same faces that you see on the cherubim around the throne of God. Whether you're in Isaiah 6, or Ezekiel 1, or Ezekiel 10, or in Revelation 4, 5, whatever. The cherubim, the seraphim, call them what you like. Those same 4 letters. And it's interesting that those same 4 symbols typify the 4 Gospels. Matthew presented Jesus Christ as the Lion of the tribe of Judah. He was Jewish. Luke was a Gentile doctor. He presented him as the Son of Man. He emphasized his humanity. Mark's the only one of the 3 that does not put a genealogy in because he's presenting him as the source of service. And you don't care about the pedigree of a servant. And of course, John presents him as to who he really is, the Son of God. But so those are common labels for those 4 Gospels. I think there's something far more fundamental going on here. But when God looks down on the camp, he sees the tabernacle right in the center, and he sees a presentation of his plan of redemption before our eyes. Well, we made it all the way to chapter 3. Not bad for our warm-up here. We've talked about the Levites. Now we're going to focus a little bit on their duties and who they are. These are also the generations of Aaron, Moses, and the day of the Lord spake with Moses in Mount Sinai. These are the names of the sons of Aaron: Nadab, the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These first 2 guys don't come off very well. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, the priests which were anointed, whom he consecrated to minister in the priest's office. And Nadab and Abihu died before the Lord when they offered strange fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai. And they had no children, and Eleazar and Ithamar ministered in the priest's office in the sight of Aaron their father. Just a passing reference, Nadab and Abihu. By the way, this is one of the lessons here, I think, is that good intentions are not enough. There's no indication here that they were mischievous, but they didn't follow instructions. The fire that they presented in their duties was not following God's specifications. And they died. There's a lesson here Paul tells in Romans, whatsoever things aforetime were written for our learning, that we through the patience and the comfort of the Scriptures might have hope. Whatsoever things are written for. The book of Numbers was written for you and I to learn from. One of the things we pick up right here is that good intentions are not sufficient. Nadab and Abihu may not have been bad guys. They weren't necessarily trying to dishonor God, but they didn't honor him enough to follow his instructions. There's another guy by the name of David, King David, and he tried to relocate the ark on a cart. And the cart hit a bump in the road, and Uzzah, he had no bad intention. He wanted to keep it from falling. And God struck him. And David got the message. He was shook by that. Because the ark was to be moved on the shoulders of the Levites, not on some ox cart. And so they stopped, had sacrifices and so forth, and corrected it. But the point is, good intentions are not enough. God has told us what he wants of us. And we need to understand that. And I think that's part of it. David's relocation of the ark, 2 Samuel 6, if you want to refresh your memory on that story. Let's move on. The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, bring the tribe of Levi near, and present them before Aaron the priest, that they may minister unto him. And they shall keep his charge, and the charge of the whole congregation, before the tabernacle of the congregation, to do the service of the tabernacle. Levites are tied to tabernacle, whether or not they're priests. The priests are, of course, the privileged bunch, but they're all involved with the tabernacle. And they shall keep all the instruments of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the charge of the children of Israel to do the service of the tabernacle. And thou shalt give the Levites unto Aaron and to his sons, and they are wholly given unto him out of the children of Israel. And thou shalt appoint Aaron and his sons, and they shall wait on the priest's office, and the stranger that cometh nigh shall be put to death. God is serious about what he expects here. Now the tabernacle, we won't go through the whole thing here. We did when we went through the Exodus, but just to refresh your memory, sometimes called the house of blood. And in addition to 2 tables of stone, we always visualize Moses coming down from Mount Sinai. I always visualize under the other arm, he had a couple of engineering drawings. Because God gave them not just the 10 Commandments, he gave them the specifications for this portable sanctuary that was to be the mechanism by which he would dwell among them. And the Scripture devotes more space to the tabernacle than it does than on any other subject. So the tabernacle is important for lots of reasons. There's much insight here. Now the materials are important to understand. Brass was the metal that could sustain fire. So brass Levitically speaks of judgment. Gold speaks of deity. And silver speaks of blood. And Satan himself endorses that when he enters Judah. And Judah says, behold, I betrayed innocent blood, when he throws the 30 pieces of silver on the temple floor. Silver is idiomatically, in a Levitical sense, speaks of the blood. And it's interesting that everything in the tabernacle sits on silver sockets. It rests on the blood. You say the Holy Spirit's dealing in puns. Absolutely. Absolutely. The silver redemption shekel we're going to counter here shortly. And the 30 pieces of betrayal silver are examples. And there are many, many others, of course. Now, when you approach the tabernacle, there's a linen fence above eye level. So all you can see is white. All you can see is righteousness in its symbolism. Only one door, one entrance. It's about 75 feet. If we use, for our windage purposes, a foot and a half for a cubit, then it's about 75 feet wide and about 150 feet deep or long. The perimeter is the same distance as the length of Noah's Ark. First thing, as you go through the gate, if you were a Levite, the first thing you'd encounter would be the brazen altar, the altar of sacrifice. That's the first step. And following that would be the laver, the bronze laver, where the priests would ceremonially wash and prepare themselves to enter the tabernacle proper. A strange portable building made of vertical planks covered with wood planks covered with gold, sitting in silver sockets with bars through them to give it rigidity, with one entrance to enter what's called the holy place. And as we go in the holy place, on the left side, you see, and then there's an inner sanctum that's a cube in effect, and the holy place is a double cube, so to speak. And we have the menorah, the sometimes translated candlestick, unfortunately, in your King James. A lampstand would be a better translation. The table of showbread, 12 loaves, changed every Shabbat. And the golden altar, don't confuse the golden altar with the brazen altar, the altar of sacrifice. The golden altar was an incense altar, roughly 1.5 foot square, 30 inches high, roughly maybe, and incense. Now, it's always associated with the Ark of the Covenant, but it's not in the Holy of Holies. It's just in front because it has to be tended on day and night. And no one ever entered the Holy of Holies except once a year, and only the high priest. So in order to attend the golden altar, it had to be just outside the curtain. When you say that, you also hear about the veil. There's a main veil outside. There's also the veil between the Holy of Holies. We understand that that veil was 18 inches thick. So the word veil is misleading to us. We think of a veil as something gossamer you can see through. No, this is a heavy, heavy curtain. And then we have the Ark of the Covenant. And we have the mercy seat. Don't confuse those two. They are two separate the one's on top of the other, but they're always described separately in the Scripture, and they have very different destinies, we believe. Now, Jesus made a claim to be on each one of these speaks of Jesus Christ. John opens his gospel. It says, the Word was made flesh and dwelt tabernacled among us. Jesus says, I am the door. Anyone that comes in by me is a thief and a robber. He also said, I am the light of the world. He also said, I am the bread of life. The golden altar speaks of intercessor, and he's the one that ever liveth to make intercession for us today. That's his main job right now. And of course, he's our sin bearer and our propitiation for our sins. So each one of these things deliberately is intended to speak of Jesus Christ. Every dimension, every material in this structure is there by design. Those designs all point to Jesus Christ. Now the coverings, I want to touch a little on this because many people don't realize what's going on here. The first thing they cover this whole thing with, the building, they got this gorgeous building. Visualize this wood covered with gold, and they put these vertical planks to make a gold building, portable building. Then they cover it with embroidered linen, emblazoned with cherubim, super angels. And it's gold, purple, blue, and scarlet, each one, of course, having a significance. The gold, the deity, the purple, royalty, and so forth. Then after this, you say, gee, they go from gold to this covering. Well, that's not bad. But then they cover that with goat's hair. You say, gee, that's a shame to hide that beauty. You can't see it from the outside then. And then they cover the goat's hair with ram skins dyed red. And then on top of that, they have porpoise skins or badger skins, depending on your translation. The scholars argue about that. But it's very, very interesting as you study this. As you see it from the outside, it has no beauty that you would desire it. It looks ugly. You only see the white linen, speaking of righteousness. The only way to enter is through that one door, which represents Jesus Christ. And then through his sacrifice and the washing of the water of the word, you can enter in. And once you enter in, that's when you behold its glory, when you're inside, not from the outside. And how interesting that, and it goes on. You can preach on this for many weeks. There's so many issues here. Let's move on. The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel instead of all the firstborn which opened the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine. God is exacting a price for the firstborn. See, it was the firstborn that died to get them out of Egypt. The firstborn belonged to God. And so instead of taking literally the firstborn, he'll take the Levites as his down payment, so to speak. And the firstborn that opened the matrix among the children of Israel, therefore the Levites shall be mine, because all the firstborn are mine. And for on the day that I smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I hallowed unto me all the firstborn in Israel, both man and beast, mine shall they be. I am the Lord. Now there's a little bit of a problem. There's not enough Levites to cut the mustard here, as you'll see. I'll come to that in a minute. And the Lord spake unto Moses in this wilderness of Sinai, saying, number the children of Levi after the house of their fathers, by their families, every male from a month old and upward shalt thou number them. And Moses numbered them according to the word of the Lord as he was commanded. And these were the sons of Levi by their names, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And these are the names of the sons of Gershon by their families, Libni and Shimei. The sons of Kohath by their families, Amram, Izabar, Hebron, and Uzziel. And the sons of Merari by their families, Mali and Mushi, and these are the families of the Levites according to the house of their fathers. Of Gershon was the family of the Libanites and the family of the Shemites, and these are the families of the Gershonites. Those that were numbered of them according to the number of all the males from a month old and upward, even those that were numbered of them were 7,500. The families of the Gershonites shall pitch behind the tabernacle westward. The chief of the house of the father of Gershonites shall be Eliasaph, the son of Lael, and the charge of the sons of Gershon in the tabernacle congregation shall be the tabernacle, the tent, and the covering thereof, and the hanging of the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the hangings of the court, and the curtain of the door of the court, which is by the tabernacle and by the altar round about, and the cords of it for all the service thereof. So the Gershonites are responsible for the claws, the curtains, and the linen fence. You got the picture? That's their area that they have to assume responsibility. They take it down when they're going to move, and they set it up when they've arrived. That's their job. And now Kohath was the family of Amorites, and the family of Izharites, and the family of the Hebronites, and the family of the Uzzielites, and these are the families of the Kohathites. In the number of all the males from a month old and upward were 8,600, keeping in charge of the sanctuary. Notice we're a month old, and we're not talking about 20-year-olds now. This is not a war thing. This is virtually a total population thing. And the families of the sons of Kohath shall pitch on the side of the tabernacle southward. And the chief of the house of the father of families of Kohathites shall be Elizaphan, the son of Uzziel, and their charge shall be the ark, and the table, and the candlestick, it says here, it really should say a lampstand, and the menorah, in other words, the altars, and the vessels of the sanctuary wherewith they minister, and the hanging and all the service thereof. So the Kohathites have what we'll call the holy objects, the appliances, okay. And so Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, shall be chief of the Levites and have oversight of them that keep charge of the sanctuary. So Eleazar, that's his job to supervise what these guys are doing. And Merari was the family of Mahalites and the family of the Mushites. These are the families of Merari. Those that were numbered of them, according to the number of all the males, from a month old and upward were 6,200. And the chief of the house of the father families of Merari was Zuriel, the son of Abihail, and these shall pitch on the side of the table northward. And under the custody and charge of the sons of Merari shall be boards of the tabernacle, and the bars thereof, and the pillars thereof, and the sockets thereof, and all the vessels thereof, and all that serveth thereto. And the pillars of the court round about, and their sockets, and their pins, and their courts. So we have the Merarites, which have the physical framework, okay? So if you think of the cloth, the curtains on the west, the Kohathites with all the appliances, and the Merarites with the actual frame, the boards, the physical building part itself, and all the posts, I assume. But those that encamp before the tabernacle toward the east, even before the tabernacle of the congregation eastward, shall be Moses and Aaron and his sons, keeping the charge of the sanctuary for the charge of the children of Israel, and to the stranger that cometh nigh shall he put to death. All that were numbered of the Levites, which Moses and Aaron numbered at the commandment of the Lord throughout their families, and all the males from a month old and upward, were 22,000. That turns out to give us a 300-person shortage. I'll come back to that. And the Lord said unto Moses, number all the firstborn of the males of children of Israel from a month old and upward, and take the number of their names. And thou shalt take the Levites for me, I am the Lord, instead of all the firstborn among the children of Israel, and the cattle of the Levites instead of the firstlings among the cattle of the children of Israel. So, the firstborn of everybody in Israel belong to the Lord, but instead of them, he'll take the Levites. That's the exchange, okay? Except there's not quite enough Levites to cover all the firstborn in Israel. Moses numbered, as the Lord commanded him, and all the firstborn among the children of Israel, and all the firstborn males by the number of the names from a month old upward. Those that were numbered of them were 22,200, threescore and 13. There's 273 people for which there aren't Levites to substitute for. So we got a problem here. We got Levites that are serving 22,000. The firstborn males are 273, so it gives us 273 that have to be redeemed. And the Lord provides a mechanism for that to happen. 5 shekels each, 1,365 shekels. And if they're about 2-ounce shekels of silver, that's about 170 pounds of silver. You can do your own math to figure out what the price of silver is going for. That's many thousands of dollars that's involved here that goes to the tabernacle. Lord said, speaking to Moses, saying, take the Levites instead of all the firstborn among the children of Israel, and the cattle of the Levites instead of their cattle. And the Levites shall be mine, I am the Lord. And for those that are to be redeemed of the 213 of the firstborn of the children of Israel, which are more than the Levites, thou shalt even take 5 shekels apiece by the pole. After the shekel of the sanctuary shalt thou take them. The shekel is about 20 gerahs, in case you're worried about that. And thou shalt give the money wherewith the odd number of them is to be redeemed unto Aaron and his sons. And Moses took the redemption money of them that were over and above them that were redeemed by the Levites, Of the firstborn of the children of Israel took he the money, 1,365 shekels after the shekel of the sanctuary. And Moses gave the money of them that were redeemed unto Aaron and his sons, according to the word of the Lord, as the Lord commanded Moses. So in chapter 4, now we've got this thing organized. Now how do we move it? What happens when you move it? The Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, take the sum of the sons of Kohath from among the sons of Levi after their families by the house of their fathers, from 30 years old and upward until 50 years old. So now we're shifting here. We're not taking all Levites. We're taking those that are qualified to serve. The others will have duties, but these are the ones that are to have a direct service here. 30 years old and upward until 50 years. All that enter into the host to do the work of in the tabernacle of the congregation. This shall be the service of the sons of Kohath in the tabernacle of the congregation about the most holy things. When the camp setteth forward, Aaron shall come and his sons, and they shall take down the covering veil and cover the ark of the testimony with it. And shall put thereon the covering of badger skins, and shall spread over it a cloth wholly of blue, and shall put in the staves thereof. And upon the table of showbread they shall spread a cloth of blue, and put thereon the dishes, the spoons, and the bowls, and the covers to cover it withal, and the continual bread shall be thereon. And they shall spread upon them a cloth of scarlet to cover the same with the covering of badger skins, and shall put in the staves thereof. And they shall take a cloth of blue and cover the lampstand, or candlestick in the King James, of the light, and his lamps, and his tongs, and his snuff dishes, and all the oil vessels thereof, wherewith they shall minister unto it. And they shall put it and all the vessels thereof within a cover of badger skins, and shall put it upon a bar. See, everything is designed to be carried on shoulders. So the Ark of the Covenant, the golden altar, all these things are designed to be transported once they're wrapped in these coverings. Upon the golden altar they shall spread a cloth of blue and cover it with a covering of badger skins, and shall put to the staves thereof. And they shall take all the instruments of ministry wherewith they minister in the sanctuary, and put them in a cloth of blue, and cover them with the covering of badger skins, and put them on a bar. Whether it's badger skins or porpoise skins is a debate among some scholars. It's a translational issue. And they shall take away the ashes from the altar, and spread a purple cloth thereon. And they shall put upon it all the vessels thereof wherewith they minister about it, even the censers and the flesh hooks and the shovels and the basins, and all the vessels of the altar. They shall spread upon it a covering of badger skins, and put to the staves of it. And when Aaron and his sons have made an end of the covering of the sanctuary, and all the vessels of the sanctuary, as the camp is to set forward after that, the sons of Kohath shall come to bear it. They shall not touch any holy thing, lest they die. These things are the burden of the sons of Kohath in the tabernacle of the congregation. To the office of Eleazar the son of Aaron, the priest, pertaineth the oil for the light, and the sweet incense, and the daily meat offering, and the anointing oil, and the oversight of all the tabernacle, and of all that therein is, in the sanctuary, and in the vessels thereof. And the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, cut ye not off the tribe of the families of Kohathites from among the Levites, but thus do unto them, that they may live, and not die, when they approach unto the most holy things. Aaron and his sons shall go in and appoint them every one to his service and to his burden. But they shall not go in to see when the holy things are covered, lest they die. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, take also the sum of the sons of Gershon throughout the houses of their fathers and by their families, from 30 years old and upward until 50 years old shalt thou number them, all that enter in to perform the service, to do the work in the tabernacle of the congregation. This is the service of the families of the Gershonites, to serve and for burdens. They shall bear the curtains of the tabernacle, and the tabernacle of the congregation, his covering. By the way, notice something else. They always use a personal pronoun. It's not its covering, it's his covering. The tabernacle is a person. It represents a person that you and I worship as the Messiah of Israel. And the covering of the badger skins that is above it, and the hanging of the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, the hangings of the court, and the hanging of the door of the gate of the court, which is by the tabernacle and by the altar round about, and their cords, and all the instruments of their service, and all that is made for them, so shall they serve. At the appointment of Aaron and his sons shall be all the service of the sons of the Gershonites, and all their burdens and all their service, and he shall appoint unto them in charge all their burdens. And this is the service of the families of the Gershon in the tabernacle of the congregation. And their charge shall be under the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest, And as for the sons of Merari, thou shalt number them after their families by the house of their fathers. From 30 years old and upward, even unto the 50 years old, shalt thou number them, everyone that entereth in the service to do the work of the tabernacle of the congregation. This is the service of the families of the sons of Gershon in the tabernacle of the congregation. And their charge shall be under the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest. Ithamar supervises both these other families that if you notice that. As for the sons of Merari, thou shalt number them after their families by the house of their fathers, 30 years old and upward, even unto the 50 years old shalt thou number them, everyone that entereth into the service to do the work of the tabernacle of the congregation. And this is the charge of the burden. According to all their service, the tabernacle of the congregation, the boards of the tabernacle, and the bars thereof, and the pillars thereof, and the sockets thereof, and the pillars of the court round about, and their sockets, and their pins, and their cords, with all their instruments, with all their service, and by name ye shall reckon the instruments of the charge of their burden. This is the service of the families of the sons of Merari, according to all their service, in the tabernacle of the congregation, under the hand of Ithamar, the son of Aaron the priest. And Moses and Aaron and the chief of the congregation numbered the sons of Kohathites after their families, after the house of their fathers, from 30 years old upwards, even to the 50 years old, everyone entered into service for the work of their congregation. Those that were numbered of them by their families were 2,750. These were they that were numbered of the families of the Kohathites, all that might do service in the tabernacle of the congregation, which Moses and Aaron did number according to the commandment of the Lord by the hand of Moses. Those that were numbered of the sons of Gershon throughout their families and by the house of their fathers were from 30 years old and upward, even to 50 years old, everyone that entered into the service, the work of the tabernacle congregation. Those that were numbered of them throughout their families by the house of their fathers were 2,630. These are they that were numbered of the families of the sons of Gershon, of all that might do service in the tabernacle of the congregation, whom Moses and Aaron did number according to the commandment of the Lord. All that were numbered by the families of Merari and their families, 30 years old and upward, even 50 years old. Everyone that entereth in service, the work of the tabernacle congregation, even those that were numbered of them after their families, were 3,200. These be those that were numbered of the families of the sons of Merari, whom Moses and Aaron numbered according to the word of the Lord by the hand of Moses. All those that were numbered of Levites, whom Moses and Aaron and the chief of Israel numbered after their families, after the house of their fathers. From 30 years old and upward, even to 50 years old, everyone that came to do service in the ministry of the service of the burden in the tabernacle congregation. Even those that were numbered of them were 8,540. According to the commandment of the Lord, they were numbered by the hand of Moses, every one according to his service, according to his burden. Thus were they numbered of him as the Lord commanded Moses. You might be confused by now. The total population of these three families was 22,000. And the total serving was a little over 8,000. Because we're dealing just with those that are 30 to 50. Follow me? Okay. So that's it. You have weathered the barrage of what many people regard as pretty tedious reading. At the same time, there are some lessons here. What you're going to do for next time, as preparation for next time, go ahead and read Numbers 5 through 10. And go ahead and review any notes you might have from previous studies on two subjects. On the tabernacle itself, because we're going to talk more about that, and the Passover. We're going to get into some of those issues. And many of the issues we're going to get into are issues that go far beyond the scope of the Old Testament in its narrow sense. It will, as a New Testament Christian, it may surprise you how relevant those notes will turn out to be. So that's what we're doing. Let's stand for a closing word of prayer.